hope that Charlie and Warren will both be around forever, but unfortunately there will be a time when they're no longer here to manage the store.
I reject such defeatism.
If Warren is giving away his shares to charity over a 10-year period through his estate plan and activists become increasingly more powerful, how will Berkshire defend itself from activists in the near and far future?
Well, if it's run right, there won't be a premium in breaking it up. It may look like it. I mean, people will say there's subsidiary A that would sell at 20 times earnings and the whole place is selling at 15. But the whole place won't sell at 15 if you spin off the one at 20. I mean, I laid out in the annual report, there are a lot of benefits to Berkshire in terms of having the companies in the same corporate tax return. So I think it's unlikely that on any long-term basis or an intermediate-term basis that the value of the parts will be greater than the value of the whole. The best defense against activism is performance, but lately there's been so much money pouring into activist funds because it's been easy to raise money for that. I mean, it's been a successful way of handling money for the last few years, and institutional money then starts flowing into it and the consultants recommend it and all of that sort of thing. And so I would say that much of what I see as activism now, people are really reaching in terms of what they're of the kind of companies that they're talking about and the claims of what they can do and that sort of thing. I think the biggest, if you're talking about my shares getting dispensed over 10 years after my estate's settled and the voting power they have, and I think by the time that gets to be a reality, I think the market value of Berkshire is likely to be so great that even if all the activists gathered together, they wouldn't be able to do very much about it. Berkshire is likely to really be a very, very large organization 10 or 20 years
and besides, the Buffett super voting power is going to last a long time.
It lasts a long time, yeah. I always, I've got these friends that call me other companies and they've got an activist and they're worried about it. I just tell them to send them over to Berkshire. We'll welcome them. We'd love to have them buy our stock because they're not going to get any place. And that's going to be the situation for a long, long time. We should be a place where people can dump their activists. Charlie, you're right.
Well, the thing that I find interesting is in the old days when most stocks sold for way less than they were worth in terms of intrinsic value, it was very rare to find an American corporation buying the stock in.
Oh, yeah.
Now, in many cases, the activists are urging corporations to buy the stock in heavily, even though it's selling for more than it's worth. This is not a constructive activity, and it's not a desirable change, and it's not a very responsible activity for the activists.
There's been more stupid stuff written on such a simple activity as stock repurchase. Most stupid stuff written and stupid stuff done. I mean, it's a very simple decision in my view as to whether you repurchase your shares. You repurchase them if you've taken care of the needs of the business and your stock is selling for less than it's intrinsically worth. But that, I don't see how anything could be more simple. If you had a partnership and a partner wanted to sell out to you at 120% of what the business is worth, you'd say forget it. And if you want to sell out to you at 80% of what's worth, you'd take it. It's not complicated. But there's so many other motivations that have entered into people's minds about deciding whether to repurchase shares or not. It's gotten to be a very contorted and kind of silly discussion in many cases. And Charlie is right. If you look at the history of share repurchases, it falls off like crazy when stocks are cheap, and it tends to go up dramatically when stocks get fully priced. But it's not what we'll do at Berkshire. At Berkshire, we will presently, we would love to buy it by the bushel basket at 120% of book because we know it's worth a lot more than that. We don't know how much more, but we know it's worth a lot more. And we don't get a chance to do that very often. But if we do get a chance, we'll do it big time. But we won't buy it in at 200% of book because it isn't worth it. And it's not a complicated question, but people that I've been around a lot of managements that announce they're going to buy X worth, and then they buy it regardless of price. And a lot of times the price makes sense, but if it doesn't, they don't seem to stop, and nobody tries to seem to want to stop them. Charlie?
Well, I certainly agree with you.
Okay.
I don't think it's a great age, this age of activism.
You want to expand on that?
Well, it's hard for me to think of many activists I want to marry into the family.
I better stop before he names names.